good morning. Thomas Cottereau, he is CEO and co-founder of SightCall, and he's going to have some things to start off with, and then he's going to introduce the first panelist. So come on up, Thomas. Give a round of applause. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Thomas Cottereau. I'm the CEO and founder of SightCall, the leading video intelligence platform. 2026. So we discussed about AI, like not a tool, but more of a process, something to transform, the way the organization works. And actually, in 2026, I had a lot of discussion with a lot of service leaders and companies. And 2026 is really the year where AI has to deliver. I'm sure that's what you get asked for. Hey, we invested millions in AI. Where are the results? There's a lot of question mark there. So the question we're going to try to unpack this morning is, can we actually reach 15, 20, or even more efficiency gain this year in 2026 with the AI that you implement? So with all of these investments, unfortunately, what we see on our day-to-day is that field technicians are still stuck in a loop. And this loop is trying to search for information. We've made some field engineer surveys on the top 3 asks that they had for technology software vendors. One of them was, help us find the information contextually in a much better way. And today, I feel that this request is not always fulfilled. So what do? They call support, or they call another engineer that they know and that might help them, get things done. And then when things become complicated, you go to escalation, and then you wait, and then maybe you have an answer, or you dispatch another tech. We are stuck in this. The blind spot that, very interestingly, very few are talking about is this uncaptured expertise. There's a lot of studies that show that in service organization, 80% of the knowledge is not documented. It only lives in your people's head. And so, if you feed your AI with only the documented data, imagine your AI will be just as good as the data you feed it with. So if we're talking about 20% of the knowledge of this type of work, well, the AI will just know this 3%. So how can we fix that? Because this gap is growing. This gap between, these customer expectations that are always wanting more and faster and better, and also your service complexity that's still growing with all of this technology, but your service team and often your AI agent, they are stuck with a low capacity and capability. So, the question we'll try to answer this morning is, how do we make every technician like your best technician? I was in a discussion last year with a service leader who told me literally this sentence. He told me, hey, last month I lost 100 years of knowledge. So I asked him, okay, what does it mean? He said, well, I just lost 3 senior technicians. Each of them live with over 30 years of expertise, and there's no way I can recover that. By the way, I have the budget to hire 2 kids. How do I do that? I'm facing this massive gap now. Can you help me with it? Another component that's important is that not only we identify this big gap, but also we all have to operate under a massive pressure here in 26. Remember the previous slide? 26 is when you are expected to deliver some efficiency gains. and you have to work under pressure with this workforce that's reduced, with the AI expected to fill the gap, and with this knowledge that disappears as a debate. So let's discuss about 5 steps to gain this AI efficiency. Step number 1. In the field, when we work with physical device, physical equipment, you cannot fix what you cannot see. It seems obvious to everyone, but I'm wondering how many of you today, when you have a remote call, use video. Seems obvious again, but trying to diagnose with the phone is kind of stuff. And text is even worse. Asking just a chatbot that does not see is also completely blind. So step 1 is make sure that you can see it to fix it. 2, let's focus on what matters, right? We had a lot of discussion yesterday on everybody has 100 priorities or even more ideas on how to make this work, on how to deliver this efficiency gains in 2026. Keep in mind that if we don't do it right, even this year, things will happen the wrong way. You've seen in the news more and more companies saying, hey, I fired 20%, 30%, 40% of my workforce because AI will fill the gap. Reality is that most of them, the AI is not ready. It's not filling the gap today, but decision from the board, go, the team will have to step up and cover this gap. And that's a bad situation, right? Because everybody is suffering in this case. So let's try to figure out what matters. There are interesting ways of finding what matters. One of them is by having an AI to analyze all of the interactions that happens with the field. And it's very, very surprising and intriguing to see that these millions of hours of calls, of video calls, of discussions lead to very, very clear problems that can be fixed. Like, you would see that, for example, 27.5% of the time, it's always the same part that's missing the technician that leads to a second dispatch. Or that it's this one part that fails. So if you have this kind of clarity, you will be able to take action. When I say take action, it's not implementing a tool or whatsoever. It's really fixing some processes, some part dispatch, maybe some organization stuff. It can be a lot of things. And I can't tell you which one they are because they are different for each organization. Let's be very, very pragmatic here. Let's see what are the most impactful problems in the organization. So that's the number 3. When you learn from the AI, then I'm sorry, I did not tell you that AI will do it for you. You have to fix it, right? If it's an organization problem, if it's a dispatch, if it's a parts problem, you're gonna have to take actions. So right now, I'm gonna add much more spare part of this one that always failed and get one in each and every track, so that when you go there, you don't fail anymore. That's one example, but it can be hundreds of those. So number 4 is actually the big one. The big one because it's this one question: how do you make each and every engineer work like your best one? Even the new one that you hired 3 months ago, and that's just getting out of school, that's a real challenge, right? How do you scale this knowledge across all of your organization? That's, again, the only way that we found is by, again, capturing this knowledge from the expert and rediffusing this knowledge to the others. And you cannot just take each and every people in a shadowing session during years to learn everything that their senior tech did. You need to capture it, and you need to capture it on the job. I've heard a lot of crazy things about capturing this knowledge, like, hey, carve out some time from your experts, put them in a room, give them half a day a week, so that they could document what they know. Seriously, no. They won't do it. It doesn't work this way. The only way to capture it is on the job. The point number 5 is get better every way. There's not one single system that fix it all one time and then you can go to your next gig. No, it's a loop. So you're gonna learn, you're gonna refine, you're gonna improve this knowledge, you're gonna diffuse it on again and again. So that's what we call the service intelligence loop. Starting with video, audio, capturing all of this interaction from the field, on the job, or even recording yourself doing this kind of task. And then on the left side, that's this diagnosis branch where you can analyze, find the key points to focus on, and fix them. On the right side, in parallel and transparently, and this is very important. You don't have time today to hire an agency to record video tutorials of how to install this board or how to fix this, and they're gonna ask you, a month of work on $20,000. It doesn't work, it doesn't scale. And by the way, what we expect today, what we consume today, is short snippet of videos. It's short informations that are contextually adapted to the situation that you face. It's not, hey, watch that, we spent 2 months creating this beautiful video to explain you how this machine works. Well, maybe we watch it once, but when you're in front of the equipment, you already forgot that. So you have to scale it. And scaling it means the distribution channel is not just one channel, it's multiple channels. I give you a few examples. If you capture this knowledge, you create these tutorials, you can inject them directly into your work order. That's an example where we have customers doing that. They implement this mechanism, and then automatically, because we know that tomorrow at 9 a.m., this technician has to go on site to fix this exact machine for this exact problem. Oh, by the way, we already have the knowledge base with the tutorial that explains how to fix that. You can surface it directly in the work order. By the way, before going on site tomorrow, just watch it. It's a 2-minute thing. And then you make sure that you have all of the right tools with you, and you can go on site and get things right. Another way is quick trainings. Every week, every day, you've got a new thing that pops up from all of this interaction. It's a cadence. We have to adapt to the way people consume content today. Look at even the new generation. It's like, TikTok on all of these other apps. A video is not more than 10, 15, 20 seconds max, right? And so the brain is used now to process this kind of quick content and switch to the next one. So let's build some materials that is much easier to consume than just this big, long training session. So we can do it. We can do it here in 2026. We can get these efficiency gains of 15-20%. And actually, it's an organization getting this type of gain for each of the 5 steps. It can come from the remote fix. It can go directly to the analysis of which problem to fix in the organization. Each one can already have a 15-20% gain. And then the knowledge diffusion takes a bit more time. Because if someone tells you that their AI can fix it immediately without a learning curve, don't believe it. It does not exist. That's not true. Again, your AI is just as good as the data you feed it with. So you need to feed this data. It takes a couple of weeks, months, and even gets better over time. And the very good news at the end is that if you do that right, it's bringing efficiency, it's bringing gain to your organization, and your customers will love it. It's very uncommon to have this kind of process where you optimize, you cut cost, you do more with less, and the customer benefit from that. I think that's a very good news. That's only if you do it right. Because if you just replace your IVR by chatbot that just takes the question on where the only thing that everybody on the other side would say is, I want to speak to a human, please stop this kind of loop that cannot help me with my real problem, then your customers will not like it. So first, it has to come from your organization. You have to empower your organization. I truly believe that that's where it comes first. And then, your customers will see the benefits. And then, when you have all of this knowledge, if you want to expose some part of it directly in front of your customers, go for it. They'll love it.